Hello everyone. It's Madeline Eames here with the Woman Fully Alive podcast. Welcome to today's episode. So today I'm diving into a topic that is vast, and I've been working in this area for quite some time, like quite a number of years. And I want to share my perspective on chronic pain, particularly conditions like fibromyalgia, and women, particularly at midlife. So over time, throughout my own life, and also through my observations of working with thousands of women, we hit a point in our lives where what we had known previously starts to fall apart. And what I mean by fall apart is not necessarily in a negative way, but perhaps the kids leave home, maybe elderly parents are sick or dying or have passed away. Often we're looking at our lives and wondering what is for me now. A lot of questions sometimes around marriage and relationships, and sometimes a pressing urgency that, okay, this is my time now. Now this time's for me, because it's like, this is the last push here. And perhaps feeling pressured in that department, either to experience more, to travel, perhaps to retire if you're working, or if you are working, to actually give it your last shot and really make a success of what you're doing, what you've built. Maybe you're an entrepreneur or a CEO, and how do I really leave a lasting impact, a legacy? So this period of time can be full of excitement and also full of uncertainty. It's also a time where, the ways that we perhaps have coped with stress might not work as well anymore. Or you might have always been busy with kids, and now you've got you didn't have time to think about maybe yourself so much. And, maybe we used exercise or running or going to the gym, or all those good things to cope with stress. I know I did. There was a time where I would get up before my young children, do a 10K run, come home, make breakfast, get dressed, get the kids off, and go to work. And now I suppose I could do that, but I actually can't imagine doing it. Well, particularly the running part, and being able to stay awake throughout the day. So that doesn't have to be that way, right? Like, some women get the most fit and the most healthy that they've ever been in midlife. And that for sure is my goal, at least to be the most healthy. But if we don't have those ways of managing stress, we need to find other ones. Well, we might start going to yoga, or, some other kind of mind-body techniques, some deep breathing, relaxation. There's so many different ways. But this is often a time that women develop conditions like fibromyalgia. Not always in that age group. There are some young people as well. But I really started looking more closely at this, and how I really got involved with chronic pain was almost by mistake. I was working as a trauma therapist for years, for decades, and I did a lot of work around with people who had suffered car accidents and had some post-traumatic stress around it. Now, often what was happening when we were treating the trauma, the anxiety, the fear, sometimes the anger, is that there was also pain in the room. Also, they were experiencing ongoing pain. So now, in retrospect, not surprisingly, as I was treating the emotional issues, the chronic pain got a lot better. It improved and sometimes even disappeared. looking back, I was really grateful that those people came for counseling, because if not, those chronic pain conditions could have kept going for a long time, if not forever. So what is going on there? Well, through the work of Dr. Sarno, who I became familiar with many, many years ago, I read some of his books and they just sounded so complicated to me that I had to put it down. But more recently, I've picked up that work again in the last few years. Dr. Sarno, Howard Schubiner, who I was lucky enough to interview, all of the work done through the Curable app, and many, many other people, many other practitioners now that are looking at this element of the emotional underpinnings of chronic pain, particularly fear and anger. Now, we live in a society that doesn't necessarily embrace being afraid or certainly being angry. Now, or we have seen displays of anger that have either been maybe perhaps very frightening to us, or if you're a sensitive person, you can pick up on the energy when someone is angry, but they're not actually saying anything. They're not articulating it. So let's flip back for a moment to women. Now, in this day and age, being a woman can be a very, very exciting time in this world, but it's not without its complications. Let's face it. Throughout the decades, the generations, women have not had equal opportunity, and in fact, in many ways have not felt safe. Safe to express themselves, safe to feel what they feel, safe to be who they are, because there's such a pressure of social conditioning, which is why we have the phenomena of people-pleasing and perfectionism. Now, people-pleasing and perfectionism have a lot of rooted fear and anger in them. And those particular patterns have been shown to show up in pain conditions, in other, physical illnesses as well. I want to be careful here. They don't directly cause, but they have been correlated with. Now, but here's the thing that I want you to hear. It's not so much the pattern, it's the emotion underneath. What fuels it? Okay, now I'm going to flip forward a few years to right now. I work a lot with chronic pain. We do a lot of mind-body interventions, and a lot of people get better. Think about that. So how is that? I also started doing deep, powerful, transformational, conscious, connected breathing. And if you've had any experience with this, it's not your regular slow, deep breathing, which is great too. But it really gets in there and clears out a lot of the emotional energy, previous trauma, and what I have also found out, a lot of the intergenerational or inherited trauma patterns. Okay, so now I've done quite a few breathwork classes just focused on anger for women, anger and rage. What I'm noticing is that a lot of women who come in with chronic pain are finding vast improvements, and sometimes a complete reduction of physical pain. It makes sense. So the outside world might say, well, that's crazy. That's like insanity. How can you say that, Madeline? I want to flip your idea of what insanity is. Insanity is keeping on doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results. And I don't even mean particularly you, the listener today. But we have more chronic pain clinics now, giving injections and medications, which are all great. I work at a chronic pain clinic. They're part of the picture for sure. They can really change people's lives. And we have more chronic pain than ever. Insanity, what I'm talking about is not insanity at all compared to other things that are going on in the world. You look over the world and, there's wars and people killing each other. That's insanity. And so I want to flip that completely, that when I started putting these pieces together, it made so much sense to me. And sense is sanity. So for those women who have been diagnosed with things like fibromyalgia, that are a collection of symptoms that were given a name in the 90s so that the medical system could make sense of it. And some people have been helped, no question about it. I want to invite you into something else, to look at your pain, at what it is. The pain is a harm alarm. It's the warning. It's like a bell goes off in your body telling you there is a threat. Now, this threat can be outside of you and it can be from inside of you. And there are many signals. There are many pieces of input, incoming information that signal threat. So, as a sensitive nervous system, which you might be a highly sensitive person, you might even pick up on other people's energy or their facial expression, their tone of voice as a slight threat. You might pick up on changes in temperature to your body as, this shift might feel like a threat to your subconscious, to your body. It might be the fear of being judged or being criticized. It might be the fear of speaking up. It could be the stress of work. And this does not mean in any way that you are making it up or that it's all in your head. That's not what this talk is about at all. Pain is a central nervous system. Pain is always processed in your spine, in your spinal cord and your brain. So if you think about that, how information gets processed, there are some emotions that we see as being scary, like anger. I don't know too many women that are okay with anger. With either kind of hearing it, with being okay with conflict, or even feeling it in themselves. So if that sends off the same signal, the same rush of adrenaline and cortisol and the whole fight, flight, freeze response, it makes sense that that could contribute to the signal of pain becoming louder. If we know that we're not able to be ourselves, or that it's not safe sometimes to be who you are in your own body, that maybe your body is not acceptable. And I really put that in quotes because that's insanity. Maybe your body's not acceptable in this particular cultural time, and it totally is, but the signals we pick up from society might tell you otherwise. That could lodge as a big threat signal in your body. So there's many different ways, and we might feel this in our gut, in IBS, in like irritable bowel syndrome, in like constipation, and that kind of tightening. That's a fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response when our digestion shuts down because we're under threat. There are so many subtle signals coming into your body all the time. And there was something I read that said that, your subconscious mind is scanning your environment 4 times a second for threat. That's how much your nervous system wants you to stay alive. It's scanning all the time. It's not concerned about your joy and happiness. It's concerned about your survival. So if we're always scanning the environment, women have a lot of things to scan that are going to come back as threats to them. And we also learn from a very young age, to be externally focused. So this is a double whammy. We're focused on the external for validation, for approval. And if this sounds like you, criticism is going to be felt very deeply. You might take things very personally and get, tossed off balance easily, hurt easily. We're trained that way and we're conditioned that way. So not only do we have a lot of danger signals coming in, even when we're not physically in danger, and if you're watching this video, you're lucky enough not to be in a physically dangerous place, I hope. And we're also trained to look externally for our sense of worth, for our validation, all those things. So this makes sense to me. This feels like sanity to me when I think of all the women that I know that suffer with conditions like fibromyalgia and worry about being snowed under by it, by losing function, by not being able to, maybe function or work. That adds on a whole other level. Not only that, just not being able to be as social, perhaps, as you were before. And social engagement with the right people calms our nervous system. So when we lose that, we lose connection, and that can feel very stressful for a human being to feel alone or lonely or, not normal. And I really question the definition of normal, as you can probably tell. So with all this information that I've been looking and observing and gathering as time goes on about women at midlife and chronic pain, it makes me even more committed to this deeper healing in the nervous system, because when we're living in pain, it's very difficult to feel fully alive and present and satisfied and fulfilled with your life, of course. Or if you're worried about flare-ups, you're worried about whether you're actually going to make that coffee date with that friend tomorrow because you don't know what you're going to feel like. That creates a very strong stress response in your body. So we really need tools to be able to turn down the volume of the danger signal in your body. And we need ways to get in deeper than just changing our mindset with cognitive behavioral therapy, which actually can be helpful, but it's my view that we need to go in deeper than that, to where the emotions are held and stuck and stored, sometimes for decades, generations, even things that we've inherited that weren't even ours. That we need a way to go in and excavate those emotions and get them out, to release them, so that we can live a little bit freer in our body, which frees up healing capacity. Now, we may always live with, those signals of pain coming in when we feel stressed. And that could be feeling alone, it could be feeling scared, or we can then start to interpret these symptoms differently. And, some people get very tired when they're stressed. And so that can be also a signal of nervous system dysregulation. In other words, a danger signal coming in. Some people get hungry or thirsty. Some people feel a very tight throat. Some people just feel very worried in their bodies. Some people start to have racing thoughts. All of these things can be symptoms of a nervous system that feels under some sort of threat, even if the threat is not visible. So we may always just get to know that that's our signal, and that perhaps it's time to bring in some safety into the body so that we can reduce the danger and increase the safety signals in the nervous system. So I'm really excited to really be putting these ideas together in an upcoming course that I'm going to be revealing at the end of February in a masterclass. And I'll leave the link to join the masterclass because I really want to flush out these ideas. And if you have pain, become familiar with people like Dr. Sarno and the mind-body connection. And the Curable app, Dr. Schubiner, Howard Schubiner, and people like Alan Gordon, who wrote a book called The Way Out. Start to read, start to explore, perhaps beyond what you have been doing already. And if you are already familiar with those approaches, then join me for something new, for another step that's just starting to be explored in this world. And I'm going to be talking about it in my upcoming webinar masterclass called You Are Not Broken, Women and Chronic Pain. So I hope you'll join me. I hope this has been helpful in putting some of the pieces together from where I'm looking at things from. And join me and know that there is hope. There is hope for healing from chronic pain. I've known many, many people who have done it, and as well as other practitioners I know who have also seen people heal from chronic pain. So I'll leave the link below. I hope this has been helpful. And don't forget, if you're enjoying the Woman Fully Alive podcast, to like my podcast, leave me a review, hit subscribe so you don't miss anything when it comes to women feeling fully alive. Thanks for listening, listeners, and bye for now.